To create an invoice, first you need to go to the Retail Operations main page. You can get there by going to the Retail Admin Project Management directory, clicking Retail Operations. The site will then open, and you will click on Invoice Tracker at the top link bar. Everybody's invoices are grouped by the person who created that invoice. So Claire has her invoices grouped, Angela Kilgore has all her invoices grouped together. You find your list, and I'll select my name, and it'll expand down all the invoices that are in your log, and it'll be in order of date invoice process. So the most recent date, today's date, would be on top. To create a new invoice, you click the Create New Invoice button at the top. It opens the form, and we'll complete some sample data. Enter the invoice number. Leave invoice total blank until the very end, or if you happen to know the amount, go ahead and enter it. We'll return to that in just a moment. Now, the first row for the cost codes may not have this drop-down arrow here visible to you. It has to do with the resolution setting on your screen. Some of you might see it, some of you might not. Just keep in mind, even if you don't see the drop-down arrow here, that you can still click the box and the menu will appear for that item. Do not skip this row thinking that it doesn't need any information. We'll enter in $250. You can enter obviously up to 8 cost codes in one coding stamp. Enter the description. Then the vendor name and the vendor number. So we'll call it Deb Construction. Now keep in mind the MSA vendor number goes in this second box. Don't put it in with Deb Construction. It goes over to this second box. So we'll enter a sample number. The invoice date, enter that as instructed. That's the date that is actually on the invoice, so let's say it's May 28th. The number of pages, including the coding stamp, so you have to count the number of pages, include the coding stamp here. Let's just say it's 5 for the sake of argument. And we'll say this is a GC Progress invoice. Any approval, no. And if there's a tax amount, we'll go ahead and enter it like that. There's a tax amount. Let's say it's $90. You have to calculate it out. It changes that value to $340. So now the total value of this invoice is $340. You need to make sure that invoice amount is then entered up here exactly as it is down there. So this amount must be the same as the amount down here. You enter the project manager name, and then your name as the contact person. The date signed is the date the invoice is processed. So just put today's date. In this case, it's June 2nd. And you have the option to attach the invoice, but my recommendation for now is don't worry about attaching invoices. You can simply hit the submit button. Once you hit the submit button, it will then send this data into the SharePoint list. We'll click submit. Okay, now you can close this window. When I hit the refresh button, this invoice will now appear. Now I'll hit the expand button, here we go, and then there's that invoice, invoice number 23458. Now I still need to add the date invoice received, date invoice processed, and date submitted to PPA. You do that by tracing your cursor over the title, hitting this drop down arrow right here, edit properties. Enter the date invoice received. This is the day that we actually received the invoice, so let's say that was June 1st. And the date you processed the invoice, June 2nd. Now I know you entered the date invoice processed on the coding stamp already. I'm working to have it automatically populate this field so you don't have to enter it, but for now you're going to have to enter it twice. The date submitted to PPA, we haven't submitted it to first yet, so we're going to not enter that at the moment. Hit OK. It'll log that information, and now you want to basically make the PDF of the coding stamp. So click on this form icon for this invoice. It opens up that browser window again. And consequently, you could have printed the coding stamp to a PDF at the time you were entering the data before you actually hit the submit button. So we would go over here, print preview, just to make sure everything's okay. Yep, everything's aligned correctly. It's looking good. So now we're going to print and make this a PDF. We'll save it to the desktop. And here's the PDF. Now you're going to have a little file attachment icon at the bottom. Don't pay any attention to that. It's not going to hurt you or confuse PPA at all. You'll take this coding stamp and, like you normally do, you will attach it to the other PDF documents for the invoice, put them in the right order, and send it via email to your project manager for his or her signature. In the event that you have something about the invoice that you want to change, say you misentered an amount or left something out, you can open up the coding stamp just like we did before by clicking on the little icon, this little icon right here, and open it at any time and make the change. Say that you actually left off a cost code. Now keep in mind, when you change the value down here, it changes to $350. Therefore, you need to make the invoice amount $350 as well. Okay. You do not submit it again. In fact, when I try to submit, it's going to say some rules were not applied, an error message. You can't submit a same form twice. Therefore, you're going to hit the save button right here. It saves the new data. And then you can close the window. You hit the refresh button, and you just want to see it that your change took effect, which it did. We can check that. Now you see the $10 underneath cost code 2 that we added, which makes the invoice total $350. So the change did take effect. So you'll hit the save button like I was saying. And that's how you basically enter an invoice. You have the option at your discretion to make your own workflow around this. This is just a means of making a coding stamp very quickly and then having it appear in a common log for everybody. Every change that is made to the SharePoint list is logged, and there's a report generated at the end of each day so we know who changed what and when. So be very cautious not to accidentally step into somebody else's project or invoices and make those changes, okay? You only pay attention to your bundle of invoices and don't touch anybody else's. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. Thank you.